I welcome you all for this wonderful session. Today we have a topic, how to manage interest calculation in TallyPrime. So interest is part of business. Of course, we cannot separate interest from the business because most of the time, most of the businesses, especially, I cannot say that only the SMEs are getting loans, but most of the businesses, they'll be paying interest or they'll be getting interest. So we are going to discuss today how the interest is calculated in Tally. So we can say like, sir, I can calculate through Excel, I can calculate through calculators also. That's fine. But everything we have to integrate through Tally. So that is very, very important. So doing works separately and taking the figures to Tally, again, you'll get a typographical error or some constraints will be there. To avoid that, we are going to utilize the fullest capacity of Tally. Tally has a lot of features. We have to utilize all those features. In that, one of that is interest calculation. We'll start the session. Right. So myself, Manikandan, I'm the Chief Knowledge Officer of Asset Tally. I have a small instruction for you. Keep your audio and video muted. If you have a doubt, you can unmute your audio and video and you can ask your doubts. And you can mention your doubts in the chat box also. And at the end of the time, I'll give a time to clarify your doubts. Thank you very much for all your participations. So this session is organized by Asset Integrated Info System. Asset Integrated Info System is a master Tally partner and 5-star partner in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So Asset Tally will provide one-stop solution for all your Tally related requirements like your Tally Silver, Gold server, or you're related to your TDL or integration. You can get in touch with Asset Tally. So the website is assettally.com. Let us start the session. Right. So today's topic is very simple, interest calculation. So there are 3 points we are going to discuss today. In that, one, calculation of interest for bank accounts. So companies, they may take fixed deposit from banks. So you can ask the question, sir, fixed deposit, bankers will provide interest. What is our job? We have to calculate and cross-check the interest calculated by the bank. It is very important. See, it is not that bankers are giving a wrong information. We have to check whether the interest is calculated properly. There is a high possibility the system will make some mistake. Okay, we can get in touch with the bankers and get clarification. So before that, the interest has to be automated in your accounting software like Tally, so that you will get the automatic figure of interest. When there is a difference between the interest generated by Tally and the interest provided by the bankers, you can get in touch with the bankers and you can get the clarity on it. So that is the first thing we are going to discuss, the interest calculation for your deposits. Sometimes you may be taking loans from banks, right? So it's nothing but your expenses. Bankers may be charging interest. When there is a mistake from the banker side, you can identify it easily and you can check it from your Tally data, whether the interest is calculated properly. So based on that, you can post the interest receivable or payable entry also. And the second point we are going to discuss is the interest on delayed payments for the receivables and payables. Sometimes when we get materials for credit, there is a high possibility supplier will say, if you're not making the payment at right time, okay, so they'll be giving some credit period. If you're not making the payment at right time, there is a possibility suppliers will be charging you the interest for the dues. Similarly, you can also charge interest to your customers for the delay payments. Okay, so you can give some credit period to your customer. You can tell them that if you're not making the payment at right time, you'll be charging interest. So now Tally is going to help you to calculate such interest. Okay, in the first scenario, it is very, very easy to calculate interest. Suppose you are doing a deposit of 1 lakh in HDFC Bank, the interest rate is 6.75. It's very simple. You can calculate in calculator or in Excel easily. Mention the period and get the interest. But for the receivables and payables, it is not that much easy because Tally is going to help you to calculate interest for the bill by bill. I'm buying materials on 1st of May, or assume that I'm supposed to make payment on 1st of May. I'm not making this payment. Okay, so the interest will be calculated from 1st of May, or you can give an instruction that I'm giving 3 days grace period to my customer. Everything will be calculated automatically. And the third topic we are going to discuss here is the auto transfer of interest values to your debit note or credit note. Here we are going to use two voucher types. That is debit note for the receivable of interest and credit note for the payable of interest. Most of the time, we will be using these voucher types for the purchase returns and sales returns. Of course, these voucher types are given for the other receivables and other payables also, including your interest receivable and interest payable, right? And I'm just giving a detailed scenarios in which the interest calculation will be applied on the business. Of course, some of them will be asking a question like, sir, we are not running a financial institution, whether this interest calculations will be suitable for us. Of course, there will be some instance like receiving interest from your bank. You may be having some fixed deposits in your bank account, and you can fix in the bank ledger about the interest percentage and the period of interest. So the Tally can calculate a interest for the particular period. Okay, you may be having a fixed deposit, RD account, whatever it is, or you'll be paying interest to the banks for your OD account or for your loans, etc. But I'm sure the EMI calculations will not happen in Tally, but interest calculation you can make it. There is a difference between EMI and the e-payment of interest. Equated monthly installments. Okay, so the installment amount will be equal for every month, but that includes interest. Okay, I'm making payment of 2,500. It's not the principal amount I'm making. Okay, so that amount includes interest also. Right. So get into the subject. So these are all the three scenarios we are going to discuss about the interest calculations in Tally. Now I'm taking a company for this sample. We'll take some other company. Right. So I'm going to enable the interest calculation feature. Of course, you know very well the advanced features are available from F11 features. By default, you can pass sales, purchase, income, receipt, payment, contra entries, and you can generate all the financial statements. There is no need to enable the feature from F11. But for the advanced features like bill-wise details, cost centers, etc., we have to enable it, even the GST, TDS from F11 features. Now we are going to enable interest calculation. This enablement is different in ERP9 and different in TallyPrime. Can anybody mention in the chat box if you are using Tally ERP9? Anyone is using Tally ERP9 now? ERP9 is the old edition. Okay, so the latest edition is TallyPrime. Okay, I hope everyone is using TallyPrime only now. Right, enable interest calculation. So just a simple activation, enable interest calculation, that's all. Now you are going to enable, most of the time this advanced features are enabled in F11 features and also in the respective ledger. You take a bill-wise, it is enabled in F11 and also in the ledgers, suppliers and customers ledger. Similarly, this GST, it is enabled in F11 and also enabled in the ledger level also. So like that, the interest calculation is enabled at F11 features and also in the ledgers level. Now I'm creating a ledger, fixed deposit in SBI, right? And it should be under the group of deposits, assets. See, there are advances, loans and advances are deposits. You can keep it under deposit. Since it is a bank ledger, you don't need to group it under bank account. You can make it under deposits. Now, activate interest calculation. Yes. Now, this is the area where you are going to configure your interest. So, there are interest parameters. We have advanced interest parameters also. Okay, so whenever you have this option F12 configuration, just check what are the options are available. Okay, F12 configuration, use advanced parameters. Let it be no now, and we will have some configuration here. Include transaction date for interest calculation for amount added. Yes. For example, on the day of making deposits, I'm making fixed deposit on 1st of April. So 30 days, that is on 30th April, it includes the date of interest. Okay, so that means for the addition amounts, I'm going to make it as yes. For the deduction amount also, I'll make it as yes. Now, you are going to mention the interest percentage. Okay, so can anybody mention what is the fixed deposit interest at the banks now? I'm talking about the nationalized banks. So do you know how much is the interest we are getting? It is very important for the accountant to understand the interest rates prevailing in the market. Okay, so this is also one of the qualities you should have. Some of the companies are totally depending on the bank funds. So in such cases, you should be clear on the interest charged. For example, you have money, you are going to deposit that money in your fixed deposit. You should know how much is the interest maximum now we are getting in the market. Minimum 6.25, 6.5, maximum 7. They will say that for the senior citizen, we are providing 7.15. For the female, for the Mahila days, we are providing 7.25. Like that, the interest percentages are there. For the fixed deposit, the average interest rates from 6.25 to 7.5. That's all. Okay, not even it is 1% per month. It is totally 6.25 to 7.5 is the prevailing interest rates for the fixed deposits. So it is very important to understand the market rates, even for the OD account, how much is the rates charged by the bankers. For SB account, how much interest they are paying. Because as an accounts guy, you should be good in finance also. You should be able to compare the interest rates. Okay, that's nothing but the value for your money. Okay, so now interest rate, let us say that I'm going to get 7% from my fixed deposit. Now there are types of interest. You'll get it. Whether the calculation is happening for a month or for a year, 7% per month or 7% per year. In that, the year and month is classified as 30 days a month or a calendar month. It is very clear. If you take 30 days a month, every month is calculated as 30 days month. Okay, suppose if you are taking calendar month, for the January it is 31 days, for February it is 28 days, again for March it is 31, April 30 days, like that. Based on the calendar month, the days will be calculated, the interest will be calculated. Similar to the 365-day year, that means every year is considered as the 365-day year. Or if you take calendar year, that means for the leap year, you'll be calculating it for 366 days, right? So let me take it as a calendar year. That means for the fixed deposit, I'm going to get 7% for the calendar year on all balances. It is very clear on all balances or on credit balance or on debit balance. Now my credit balance or debit balance. Assets will be having a debit balance. Liabilities will be having credit balance. In case if it is a OD account, then you may take a debit or credit or on all balances also. But in OD account, when there is a outstanding, then interest will be charged. But if there is no outstanding, interest will not be charged. So what we can do is we can take it as on debit balance. That means whatever the deposits we are making with the fixed deposit account of SBI will be getting interest. That's all. I'm not going to enable any other options. Then just accept it. Now Tally is going to calculate the interest. That's the only work Tally will do in the basic stage. Where do we find interest? For example, let us get into the current assets fixed deposit. See, there is no fixed deposit because we have not transferred any money to the fixed deposit account. First, let me transfer the money to my fixed deposit account. On 1st of January, I'm transferring some fund to my fixed deposit account. Debit fixed deposit account, 1 lakh, and transfer from my ICICI bank account. Assume that I'm transferring money from my ICICI bank account. This is different. This is the bank allocation, which is irrelevant to the interest calculation. Now, let me access transaction. On 1st of January, I'm depositing 1 lakh in my fixed deposit account, which is held at the SBA. Now, let us check how much is the interest calculated on 31st January. Okay, see, I'm going to check it from the balance sheet. You will not get any information, right? See, deposit is there. It's coming on the liability side. That's why it is a minus. Okay, otherwise it's a deposit amount only, debit balance only. Now I have deposited 1 lakh. I just want to see how much is the interest calculated for my 1 lakh. It will not come here. I just want to show you your interest will not automatically comes to your bank account or it will not automatically comes to your balance sheet. So interest is calculated and it is shown on the reports. Get into display more reports, statement of accounts. I know you know very well about the reports. Basic reports are available on the accounts book. Advanced reports are available on the statement of accounts. Now statement of accounts, interest calculation. and for the receivable or payable. Okay, whatever the interest receivable or payable, or if you are going to take report only for a particular ledger for which the interest is enabled. In this total scenario, we have enabled interest only for fixed deposit SBI, or you get it from interest receivable also. Now, let me check the interest calculated from 1st of January to 31st of January to my fixed deposit account. Don't see this figure, get enter, and now you can see the figure. Deposit account, fixed deposit of 1 lakh, and the interest is calculated as 594.52. If you want to see the details for how many days, what is the percentage of interest is calculated, just enter. Now you can see the details. That means we have deposited on 1st of January till 31st of January. Tally calculated interest for 31 days from the date of deposit, 7%, which is coming around 594.52. It's just a calculation page. Okay, it is not going to give any impact on your books of accounts. Please understand, it is just a calculation page. It is like an external calculator you are calculating. It doesn't mean that as soon as it is calculated, it will be transferred to your books of accounts. No way. We have to pass some entries to transfer this figure to the books of accounts. Now, it's just an interest of 594.52. I'm changing the period. You know about the changing period. Alt F2 depends on the screen. Okay, see in this screen, just F2 also you can press, or Alt F2 also you can press to change the period. Now I'm changing the period to 1st of January to 28th of February. Remember, for January month, we got an interest of 594.52. Okay, see accountants, you should know, I'm just telling you now again and again, you should know the interest percentages in the market. And if you deposit 1 lakh, how much will be the interest you'll be getting for a month? Okay, just the average numbers you should know. Okay, now I'm changing the period. It was 594 up to 31st January. I'm changing period to 28th February. It is 1131.51. Until 31st March, I'll be getting an interest of 1726.03. That's all. For 1 quarter, for 3 months, for the deposit of 1 lakh, 7% of interest is coming around 1726.03. So it is calculated for the days actually. 7% per annum. That means I'll put calculator. 1 lakh into 7%. So you're getting an interest. This is nothing but for the annum per year. Okay. 7,000. So what you can do is 7,000 divided by 360 multiplied by 90 days, or whatever the days it is taking. You have to calculate it that way. 90 days, 31 days in January, 28 days in February, again 31 days in March. So it is coming around 90 days. It has taken exactly. I'm just cross-checking the figure whether Tally is calculated properly or not. It is correct, right? But remember, this figure will not affect your books of account. I'll show you once again. This is my fixed deposit account. Whatever the amount I have deposited is lying in my fixed deposit. Even you change the period to 31st January, same. Change the period to 28th February, same. And change the period to 31st March, same figure. There is no change, okay? But it is there. It is just a calculation page, that's all. What we suppose is we have to transfer that interest amount to the ledger. Interest amount to be transferred to the ledger. Now, you should know the concept of collecting interest from bank. So when you're depositing something in the fixed deposit, the interest will be accumulated in your fixed deposit account. So there are 2 criteria. One, you can claim the interest on a every month basis. If you have a SB account in the same bank, they'll be transferring that amount to the SB account. Then you can withdraw and you can enjoy that interest portion. That means your fixed deposit, that is your principal is same. So the principal amount, that is the deposit you made with the bank is same. There won't be any disturbance on the figure. Okay. So your same amount will be lying on your bank account and the interest amount will be transferred to your SB account. This is one area. Another area, I'm not going to withdraw the money, interest money on a monthly basis means the interest will be accumulated. For example, in this scenario, 1 lakh is the principal amount. This month I got a interest of 600. Now this 600 will be added on my principal amount. Next month, the interest will be calculated from 1,06,000. Okay. And the February month interest also added with the principal, because you are not going to withdraw such amount. It is going to lie on your bank account. Now, see how to transfer your interest. It's nothing but the receivable. Okay. So, you know which voucher type we have to use for receivable? Can anybody mention the chat box? For receipt, we use F6. For payment, we use F5. Right? Similarly, there is one more concept, receivable and payable. Can anybody mention what is the voucher type we can use for the receivable? See, receivable concept is simple. I have the rights to receive, but it is yet to receive. Legally, my banker is supposed to provide interest because 31 days passed. I have a rights to receive interest. It doesn't mean that I have received interest. I may be getting the figure in the future times. I'm talking about receivable. Okay. I have a rights to receive, but I have not received it. Somebody is having my money. In future, I am going to receive it. It's nothing but receivable. So you can use a voucher type debit note. Okay. Debit note is available in the Alt F5. To see that there is a navigation button next to your payment. Okay. So that is debit note. If the debit note is not enabled, then you can enable from the F10 other vouchers. You can find all the inactive vouchers, then you can enable the debit note. Okay, now this is the debit note voucher type. You can use this voucher type in the invoice mode or voucher mode. I hope you are comfortable on the changing mode of voucher types. That is Control H, right? I can use as voucher. That means you'll be getting debit and credit option. It's nothing but double entry. Now you can select the ledgers. See, the ledgers are available on the right hand side. See the ledgers. I'm going to give a tips. You're not able to see the fixed deposit ledger. Okay. So usually we don't get all the ledgers on the debit side and we don't get all the ledgers on the credit side. Tally will guide you. Whatever the ledgers you can utilize the debits of debit note. Whatever the ledgers you can utilize on the credit of a credit note or debit note, that alone will be available on the listing. Okay. So it is not that much easy to transfer that interest to Tally. Better you can do some classes configuration. Okay. Go to alter and voucher types. There is a debit note and come to the last place. That is to set the classes. Classes are the automations. Okay. Now I'm going to set interest class. And there will be one more option to activate. Use this class for interest accounting. Yes, I'm going to use this option for the interest accounting. That's all. Now it's going to be magic. You open Alt F5, that is debit note. You'll be finding, see, I'll open it again. This is receipt, Alt F5. Tally will ask a question. Alt F5 is nothing but the debit note. If you want to use classes, classes are the automations. If you use classes, some figures will be transferred automatically. Okay, whatever the interest is calculated on 31st January. See the ledger. Earlier, we were having a lot of ledgers here. All your bank ledger, cash ledger, etc., etc. At that time, I told you that Tally will not provide all the ledgers. Okay, it will specify the limited ledgers which are suitable for this area. It's just to avoid mistakes. Okay, now I'm using interest class. That means I can use the ledger in which the interest calculation is already enabled. Okay, now in this SBI fixed deposit only, we have enabled the interest, and also the amount of interest also comes automatically. Accept the screen. Just see the amount has come automatically. Now I'm changing the date for your easy understanding. Now the amount is 594. I'm changing the date to 28th February. Tally brings the interest amount to this place automatically. Here you can avoid a lot of typographical errors. whatever the interests were calculated on the interest calculation page is coming to this area automatically. It's nothing but because of the voucher class automation. We have automated the interest calculation. As soon as I selected the ledger, as soon as I change the date, the exact interest figure transferred to this particular area. Now I'll have 31st January. It's nothing but 594 rupees, 52 paise. And this interest will be transferred to your fixed deposit account. For example, you are going to get interest received or something receivable you can mention under indirect income. Now this interest is transferred to your fixed deposit. See the balance figure, current balance, 1,594.52. That means you're not going to withdraw the interest. The interest amount is going to add with your principal balance. Just accept this transaction. Go and see display account book ledger, fixed deposit, SB. On 1st of January, I made a transfer of 1 lakh. Now on 31st January, interest is accumulated. Now you can ask the question, sir, how do I know whether the interest is accumulated or not? Get a statement from your bank. Similar to your current account statement or SB statement, bankers will provide you the fixed deposit statement also. It is the responsibility of accountant to get the statement and post this entries. Most of the time, we ignore this area. We do some deposits. Maybe some proprietorship companies will have this system of depositing some amount in the FD. Okay, some of the private limited, public limited companies also keep some deposits in the bank for the future usage. So in those times, you have to get the statement from bank and you have to transfer that balance to your fixed deposit account. Okay, so even your P&L should have that figure. That is very, very important. When you are maintaining accounts on accrual basis, it is not only the amount received, also the amount receivable should be accounted. So my P&L will show the exact income now, right? The amount to be received, it is held with the bank account. Whether it is received in hand or not, it is my rights to receive. So I can post this entries so that my exact income will be calculated. So the similar treatment, you can do it for the interest payments also. Let me open the ledger once again. Similar treatments for the interest payments also, right? I'll duplicate this voucher for 28th February. Just see the surprise, the interest figure comes automatically. Okay. Now the interest is receivable for the February also. I'm just passing one more time. If you're not comfortable on duplicating the vouchers, I'll teach you. You just open a particular ledger. Okay, suppose when you're working on a transaction which is happening on a monthly basis. Okay, so don't strain yourself, just Alt 2, that entry will be duplicated. So change the date, the interest amount also comes automatically. Simply accept this transaction. That's all. Now your fixed deposit account has the balance of 1,01,735.97. It is very simple. Interest is calculated on interest. Okay, not only on the principal amount. You can see that for the month of January, it is 31 days. 5 lakhs, sorry, from 1 lakh, 7% interest is for 31 days, 594. But for the month of March, it is not calculated from 1 lakh. It is calculated from 1 lakh plus 594 plus 540. So the principal amount itself is 1 lakh 1,050. 1,150 and interest is calculated as 600. We'll see it in detail. Display, statement of accounts, interest calculation, ledger, fixed deposit. Now change the period, 1st of January to 31st January. We have claimed the interest, so it will not come here. If we don't claim the interest, it will appear here. We have claimed the interest already, so that will not come here. So here also you have a lot of configurations, F12 configuration and change mode, exception values, everything you can find in the right hand side toolbar. Okay, suppose I'm just deleting all the deposit interest. You can find the interest amount on the particular ledger. Display statement of accounts, interest, ledger, SBA. This is for, see, it is calculating for 8 days because the report is seen for 8 days. Changing to 31st January, it comes as 31 days. I'm just changing to 31st March, it comes as 90 days. Okay, so you can see the report on a monthly basis also. So this is for the 90 days from 1st of January to 31st of January. Okay, now once again, I'll show you the debit note, Alt F5, interest class, select the deposit ledger, the interest amount is transferred for 31st of January, 590.52. Just see the report once again, display statement of accounts, interest calculation, ledger, 28th February. So it is not calculated from 1 lakh, it is calculated from 1 lakh 594.52. So the amount is 540.18, right? Again, you can transfer the February and see the report. 28th February, Alt F5. This is called classes, voucher classes for debit note. Again, the interest page, ledger, 31st March. So interest is calculated on the 1,01,134.70. 31 days, the interest amount is 601.27. So this is the simple calculation of interest for the interest receivable, especially for the fixed deposit ledgers. Similarly, you can make this for the interest payable also, but you have to ensure one thing, that is the loan in which type of loan you have taken. Suppose a loan is taken from your friend or from the financial institution for the interest payment, then the calculation will be fine. Okay, let me configure it. Create a ledger, Bajaj Finance, interest only loan. Some of the loans, they are charging interest loans. Some of the loans are repayment loans. Okay, that means you are going to pay EMI. Now I'm taking unsecured loan from bank. Then you can follow the same system of interest calculation. Now I'll make it as yes 14% for the calendar year. So for whatever the loans you are taking from the bank, assume that I'm taking loan on 1st of January, that is a receipt of loan, credit the giver, Bajaj Finance, 10 lakhs, and I have transferred that money to my ICICI account. That's all. It's a simple transaction. There is no more interest comments, right? That's all. Now, just check what is the interest transferred to your loan ledger, Bajaj Finance. You can observe this. Tally will show the list of ledger which has interest configuration, and it will not show all the ledgers and disturbs you. Now, Bajaj Finance on 1st of January to 31st of January, I'm supposed to pay the interest of 11,890.41. That's all. I'm supposed to pay 11,890.41 for 31 days. That is 14% interest. If you want, you can take a calculator and calculate it. 10 lakhs, 14% per annum. So divided by 365 multiplied by 31 days. You're supposed to pay 11,890.41. So what you can do is you can transfer this interest to your accounting ledger, because it will not do the automatic transfer. Ledger will show only 10 lakhs. You're supposed to transfer. In the same way, you can pass interest entry for the loans which you are taking from your friends and relatives. Most of the time, for the financial institution, they'll be having a Pakka ledger statement. Okay, if you're taking from your friends as a hand loan, from your friends and relative circle as a hand loan, so you have to do the calculation and you can fix the liability for your company. Okay, so now for the January, I have to transfer the interest to my books of accounts. But for the receivable interest, we are using the voucher type called debit note. Similarly, for the payable, interest payable, we're supposed to use the voucher type called credit note. Now I'm selecting credit note. I'm selecting the voucher type credit note. It will show the list of ledgers Okay, but I want the ledger Bajaj Finance. Okay, so what's supposed to do is, again, I'm showing the same option. Alter the voucher type, credit note, and get into the last option, interest class. And Tally will raise a question. You are using this option for interest? Yes. That's all. I'm just accepting it. Now you open the voucher credit note with the class. It is very, very important. You have to open it with the class. I'll show you again. If you are using Contra, it opens automatically. If you are using journal, it will open automatically. Okay. When you are using Alt F6 credit note, it will ask a question in credit note whether you are interested to use interest class. Yes. Now it will show the ledger in which the interest is enabled. Okay, I'm going to credit the Bajaj Finance because I'm increasing the liability. Already I'm supposed to pay 10 lakhs. Now for 31 days, I supposed to pay the interest of 11 lakh 11,890.41. This is interest payable or interest expenses or whatever it is. The ledger which you want to create, you can create indirect expenses. That's all. Now 11,890 point. Now your liability for Bajaj loan ledger has become 10 lakh 11,890.41. 10 lakhs plus 11,890.41. Okay. Now there is a challenge. When you are calculating interest for your fixed deposit, interest is calculated from your principal and also from the interest which you're supposed to pay, right? Similarly, you just check for the next period how the interest is calculated. That is for 28th February, Bajaj Finance, interest is coming to 10,867.41. Okay, just calculate whether it is calculated from 10 lakhs or it was calculated from principal and interest. Okay, 14% is coming to 1,40,000. 1,40,000 divided by 365 multiplied by 28 days. So it is coming around 10,739.72. So we have to calculate interest for the monthly basis. Okay, so I'm just including that also. Similarly, you can pass entries on a monthly basis for the next period, that is March. This is what is the interest calculation, right? This is for the financial institutions loan payments or fixed deposits made with the banks, right? So these are all simple areas, but you have some more interest advanced parameter calculations. Okay, we'll get into that is the suppliers and customers payment bill by bill. Suppose I'm taking a material from a supplier on 1st of January. I supposed to make payment on 30th January. If I don't make the payment on 30th January, then interest will be levied. I just want to know how much is the interest to be paid or interest to be received from your customer for the amount you have not received at the right time. If you are not using any classes, for example, Bajaj Finance, you will not get the figure automatically. That is what is our expectation. I cannot refer the interest calculation page frequently. Okay, assume that this Tally software is used by a financial institution. I'm doing a finance business. I'm giving a loan for 150 people. Okay, I cannot see the interest calculation every time and I cannot put the amount manually. Better you activate the classes, use the voucher type debit note. Then you can use classes and the amount is automatically transferred to this area. Okay, you cannot use the journal on a general basis. Okay, now coming to the customers and suppliers area, that is, I'm creating a ledger. Assume that my customer Raj and Co sundry debtors, my customer. I'm going to enable bill voice details and activate interest calculation. The criteria here is if my customer is not making the payment at right time, I should enable the interest. That is what is my requirement. Now calculate interest transaction by transaction. Yes. For the banking, it will not ask a question like this because we put the money in bank, we get the loan, that's all. But in case of customers and suppliers, it is nothing but transaction by transaction. Now I'm selling goods to my customer for 1 lakh. For this transaction, customer is not making payment. I have to calculate interest. Then customer has made a payment of 50,000. Only remaining 50,000 is yet to be paid. So I want to calculate interest for the remaining 50,000 only. That is nothing but transaction by transaction. Now I'm enabling this option. If you want, you can use the parameters of the voucher types also. That means now I'm going to configure. Tally is asking a question. Override parameters for each transaction. Whether you want the interest calculation at the entry level also. Yes, can miss yes. Not only in this area, while passing the entry also, Tally will ask a question. If there is any change on the interest rates, you can change there also. Then you can accept it. For the amounts added, for the amounts deducted, I'm charging interest of 12% per annum. That is for the all balances. Suppose if the customer is making advance payments, I'm not delivering the material at right time, then you are liable to pay interest to the customer. There are companies charging like this. They'll be having a agreement. Okay, when I'm supplying the material, I have to you have to pay 30 days. Within 30 days, the payment. Otherwise, I'll be charging you interest. Suppose customer says, sir, I am making you advance payment. If you're not delivering the material within 30 days, I will charge you interest. Yes, you can charge interest. But both debit and credit balance also you can configure interest. I'm not sure how many companies are charging interest for the advance receipts and all, but I'll make it as for all balances. That's all. Debit balance or credit balance, whatever you want to, you can enable it. Now I'm going to pass one sale to this customer on 1st of January to show the interest calculation. I'm selling the goods to Raj and go. Just select some. I'll pass as voucher. Debit the receiver of material, 10 lakhs. Now he's supposed to pay within 45 days. Then the interest calculation page will open. Okay. If you want, you can enable interest for this customer. Okay. Enter. Then sales. I'm selling some goods to my customer for tax and I'm charging interest of 12%. Let's see the interest display, statement of accounts, interest, a particular ledger. See, only the ledgers for which the interest is enabled will appear here, not everything. Okay. Now the interest is calculated for 31 days from 1st of January to 31st January. Even I can use the parameters like interest has to be calculated only after 45 days or after the due date, after giving 3 to 5 grace periods also we can calculate interest. Okay. So now this interest is calculated from the date of beginning. It is possible to configure the interest from the outstanding dates also. I'm enabling the advanced parameters. For that purpose, advanced parameter is enabled. Now you can see the expansion of interest calculation page. 12% for a calendar year on all basis, whether it is always or after passing the due date. Always or after passing the due date. Then whether it is from the date of applicability or due date of invoice or something. For example, in this scenario, I'm going to charge 12%. After passing the due date, if there is any grace period, you can mention like 3 days. Because I'm selling goods on 1st of January, customer is supposed to pay after 45 days. After 45 days, I'm giving 3 days grace period. And then the interest supposed to be calculated from the due date of invoice. Okay. That's all. This kind of advanced parameters also I can use. Even I have some more punishment for my customer. If he's not making the payment after some days, I'll be charging 18%. Of course, some companies will put a rule because they'll be paying interest to their OD account, no? So they can collect the interest from their customers. They should put a rule that they have to pay within the due date, otherwise the interest will be charged. Now, I'm selling goods to my customer for 10 lakhs. For this, interest supposed to be calculated. I'm just accepting this. Come out and see the interest calculation page. Display statement of accounts interest. Select receivable from the parties. Now debtors Raj and Co. Otherwise, you get into the ledger Raj and Co. See the date is 31 March. Enter, you will find the particulars of interest. So see how clear it is. We have sold goods for 10 lakhs. We sold on 1st of January. We informed the client that they're supposed to pay interest after 45 days. If they don't make payment after 45 days, that is from January 45 days is nothing but 15th February. Okay. To till date, customer is yet to pay. Today is 31st March. So on customers making payment on 28th February. Sir, I'm making transfer of 10 lakhs. No, you wait. Because you're supposed to pay on 15th February, but you haven't paid till 28th. I'm charging you interest for 14 days, 12%. Nothing but 4,602.74. Right? In this way, you are going to calculate interest for your customers and suppliers ledger. This is the customer ledger. So this interest supposed to be received by us. Okay. We supposed to receive interest from our customer. Now just check the customer ledger, display account book ledger, Raj and Co. The total amount to be received from the customer is 10,000. I supposed to pass the receivable entry, which is nothing but Alt F5. Just note down, receivable is Alt F5, payable is Alt F6, credit note. It is equal to your purchase returns and sales returns. Now I am selecting the ledger, Raj and Co. See, this interest is receivable. So you have to use the respective voucher type. I am changing the date to 31st January. Just check how much is the interest to be received from my client. It's not coming. Just change the date, 16th February. Just check how much is the interest to be received from the client. Okay, so it depends on the classes and the voucher types we are selecting and the period, you will get the interest. So change the period and check whether the interest is receivable from the customer or not. So on 31st January, there is no receivable client. That means there is no interest receivable from the client. Okay, so the interest is due from 1st of January, 45 days, which is nothing but 15th February. 1st of January to 45 days, 15th February. Now I'm checking on 19th February because 1st January to 45 days is nothing but 15th February plus 3 more grace days. Okay, and then the interest is calculated. Like that, I have to take the interest calculation. Assume that I'm changing date and collecting interest from my client 31st March. So the total interest was calculated for 45 days, 15th February to 31st March. Total interest receivable from my client. Interest received. Now you just check the letter of the customer Raj and Co. 10 lakhs plus 14,794 is the amount to be received. So you have to be very careful on the interest configuration. There is no other work. Once the interest is configured, the interest amount is calculated automatically. The only thing is you have to transfer the interest amount to the voucher type, debit note or credit note. Then only it will be added to your respective ledger. Similarly, whatever the interest is charged by your supplier also can be configured, right? So this is how we calculate interest. So it is very simple. We enable the interest from F11 features and the interest calculation can be used for the interest payable to your loans. Maybe the unsecured loans or the secured loans, only interest payable. Don't take it for the EMI payable. For that purpose only, I explained you the difference between interest payments and the EMI payments. EMI means you are paying principal and EMI interest. Okay, there are some companies providing interest only loans. Okay, or you take a loan from your friends for the interest of 12%, 18%, you can use Tally for your interest calculation. Additionally, for the deposits, fixed deposits you made with the bankers, that also you can calculate interest and you can transfer the interest to your ledger. Most of the times we don't get the ledger statements from the banks at right time. Meantime, you can calculate and you can have a projection of your liability. Okay, as I told you already, suppose if you do the calculations properly, you can calculate your company's income and company's expenditures. It is nothing but a provision entry. Suppose I inform the client that they're supposed to pay interest, but I'm not calculating the interest. I'm not transferring that interest to the ledger. I may forget to collect it from the customer. So it is a responsibility of the customer to pass entries so that we can remember that this is the amount I supposed to receive from the customer. So we can make it as an advanced interest calculation or basic interest calculation. Basic is nothing but a single rate of interest for a fixed period, but advanced is the multiple rate of interest you can collect it. For first 45 days, one rate of interest. For the next 45 days, different rate of interest you can calculate from your, collect from your customers. Right? This is how we calculate interest. If you have any doubts, you can raise your doubts. I'm here to help you. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the chat box or you can unmute your mic and ask your queries. Right? So every session, I'll give some information about Tally. So Tally generates an invoice, e-invoice, e-waybill, everything automatically based on your voucher entries. Some companies feel that the interest pattern is not attractive. Of course, the invoice provided by Tally is very professional. It looks in black and white. Suppose if you want to change the color pattern or you want to change the field, you can do it from the F12 configuration also. Irrespective of that, you want some more additional fields or you want to change the color pattern or you want to make the fields in different lines or you want to put the company logo or kind of a letterhead patterns if you want to maintain, you can do the TDL. Okay, so we will help you to get your invoices designed and you can design your reports also. Sometimes some reports, if you are not comfortable to get it from Tally, you may be transferring the data to Excel. Okay, you may be using ODBCs and all, but you will be using Excel also to modify such reports. So whatever the format you would like to have, you can format through the TDL. TDL is nothing but Tally definition language. So in which the Tally is designed. So you get in touch with us. We will help you to design your invoices and reports. For Tally related queries, Manish sir, we don't have a PDF of all TallyPrime feature. We'll be having a textbooks. If you want, it'll help you to get the textbooks. Textbooks are ready to get ready. We are opening our academy shortly. Our academy is Asset Genesis House of Accountants. Also, we have a placement wing that is tallyhr.com. So for the business owners, if you want to get a good accountant, you can get in touch with us. Similarly, for the accountants, if you are willing to get good accountant job, get in touch with us through www.tallyhr.com. We'll help you to get a good accountant or a good job, right? So now just check whether your Tally is updated. In the right top of your Tally, you can find a help button. There, if you find a red button or there's a possibility you'll be finding a red alarm button on the top of your Tally. That means your system has some message from Tally. Here, the system is not updated. I'm using latest. I'm not using latest edition, means I'll be getting this red color alarm buttons. So better you have to use the latest editions. Now the latest release is 5.1 from 2nd of December. Fortunately, there's a happy news in future. Within 1 or 2 weeks, we'll be getting another release that is called release 6. There are a lot of advancements for the auto reconciliations. The last session we were discussing about the reconciliation, but the release 6 has a lot of advancements in the bank reconciliation, like e-payments, connecting your banks through Tally and reconciliations, auto reconciliations, and updating your bank statements in Tally automatically. The entries are transferred to your Tally. That kind of advancements we have in release 6. If you are not using the latest release, better you have a latest release and ensure that your TSS is updated. Tally software services is updated. Then there is a tips for today, 31st January, that is tomorrow is the last day to file your Q2 returns, Q3 TDS returns. You may be deducting TDS for salary cases or you may be deducting TDS for other cases other than salary. So you're supposed to file your 24 or 26 Q returns, Q3 before 31st January. Otherwise, you'll be paying rupees 200 on every day of delay. Okay. So the credibility also you will be losing if you are not filing the returns properly. For example, I deducted TDS from my customer's account during, for my supplier's account during October, November, December. That means the TDS would have been paid on the 7th of the following month itself. But the return supposed to be filed before 31st January. Otherwise, your vendors will come to know that you have not filed the return. Okay, so they will check their 26 AS. If it is not reflecting, there is a high possibility next time they will not allow you to deduct TDS, right? You file your returns at right time, that is 31st January tomorrow. Otherwise, you'll be facing a problem of 200 rupees per day of delay. Thank you very much for your participation. We'll meet on coming Tuesday, 4th February.